Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to another episode of Ascension with A Course in Miracles. And this one is really tugging at my heart. Um, huh. So I am Laina Orlando, and I am privileged to be the vessel that brings these transmissions to the world because I just cannot imagine how scary right now life would be without these teachings. And huh, I'm just sitting feeling this collective pain that is arising. But thankfully, I know how to put it into the context that the course has taught me. You know, today's episode is 220, and today is what? October 29th. So last week, the last couple of weeks, we have looked at uh what were they? Lesson 186, Salvation of the World Depends on Me, really to help us become more humble and less arrogant about, well, I can't be in charge of the salvation of the world. Who am I to do that? Which is pure ego arrogance, and it comes from ignorance, frankly. If you don't know who you are, then you're arrogant about you can't be that. But Course in Miracles is a gift given to us by Jesus with the exact steps that we are to take, same teachings that he gave, probably a lot more detailed, that he gave 2,000 years ago when he was here on earth as a human being that we know as Jesus. What he was able to experience in his journey, and if you really study his journey, you will see that there is a lot that the Bible has left out, especially the time that he spent in with the teachers of the Far East learning the principles. Much of them are Buddhism basically, if you break it down, it's psychology. It's understanding the way the mind works. Well, the Course in Miracles is a course in mind training. It is training us to understand how the mind works so that we can become the master of our mind instead of the mind with its own ability to dictate how we experience things, which we call ego, how that runs our lives. So you got to train your mind so your mind's not running your life. You've got to understand what's going on. And the process is extremely simple. We are divine beings, we are non physical, we're in the mind of God, and we decide to go on a little journey. We decide to go on a little adventure like Hansel and Gretel. We decided to take off into the woods and just believing we're going to be okay. And because they were so curious, they were young little children filled with curiosity. They knew that there were dark woods. They knew that there were things out there that they probably shouldn't venture into, but what the heck? Let's do it. We have that same curiosity. God created us curious so that we, in our curiosity, would extend the kingdom. You know, if we already had everything that we needed, there would be no extension. It couldn't be infinite. It would be a finite kingdom. But the God is infinite. It has to continue to extend. We are the opportunity for that extension. But when we do it in ignorance and we take off into the woods in the middle of the night, into the forest, not knowing what to expect, not knowing how to get back. However, Hansel and Gretel had a really good idea. They left little breadcrumbs on their way to the woods. Well, that's basically what the Holy Spirit is, that little thread that if we listen to it, it gives us the breadcrumbs all the way back. Humanity right now is so far into the woods. As a matter of fact, we're about to get boiled by the wicked witch of in the woods that was had the big cauldron. I don't know if you guys remember the story. It's been a long time since I've heard it, but I'm going by memory. Hi everybody. I am so grateful that you guys are all here. But the witch has this massive cauldron and she's getting ready to go ahead and, add her onions and carrots and whatever else she's going to add to her soup. And she's about to take little Hansel and Gretel and throw them in the pot and make herself a nice little hot soup. Sounds like a wonderful idea, right? These little kids are unruly, they misbehave, they walked into the woods. Well, they should be somebody's supper, right? That's exactly what has happened to us. We have left the sanctuary, which is the mind of God. But here's the crazy thing. We never really left. And I know that this is where the Course in Miracles gets trippy. For a lot of people, the true essence of spirituality trips people up. And it trips us up because our minds are not um, trained while we are a human into understanding paradoxes. Everything that we are given in the three-dimensional world, when you go to school, everything is linear from here to there. It's this or that. We're not taught about paradoxes. How can we be in the mind of God and yet we are returning to the mind of God? How can we be part of God and we're returning to God? How can you have those two things? Well, this is where you have to train your mind to think way differently. You cannot be thinking logically the way the world thinks. You've got to be thinking multidimensionally. You've got to understand that when you are a divine multidimensional being, you're everywhere. So you're in there and you're not in there all at the same time. So we've got to get comfortable with things that make no sense to the mind, to the human mind, because they make sense to the divine mind. We all have access to that. So Hansel and Gretel, they leave the comfort of their house, but they have the idea to go ahead and drop those little breadcrumbs. And they work their way into the woods and they get caught by the witch and they're about to become somebody's soup. And then, of course, they decide to leave. That is where humanity is right now for those of us here in this group. We decided to leave. And we are already in the process of finding those little breadcrumbs to make our way back home. But the bulk of humanity is about to become soup. The bulk of humanity is sitting in a space of terror about to become soup. Meaning for them, this is the end of it. Of course, when you understand paradox, you know that there is no end because there is no beginning. All is is. It just is. But to get the mind trained into that space of isness, where you can live in that peace and that comfort, it takes however long it takes. And here's another paradox. It doesn't take any time at all because you're already that. So you got to play with that one too. So many things that we have to learn to get comfortable with. In this time that we are in, I've been saying this for a very long time now. I probably started doing classes on what was coming in 2016, explaining where we're headed towards a time that is going to be very, very rocky. You can go back through my two YouTubes. You can probably find those videos. I was talking about the rude awakening that is coming. Well, here we are. So if you take stock of what is happening in the world today, and again, let's stay in the paradox. So we got to think two ways. We've got to think with God, nothing is happening. Everybody's safe. And then we've got to look at, well, we're in what appears to be a 3D experience. We're separate from God. So we have bodies, we have governments, we have all kinds of rules, laws, regulations, money, all kinds of things like that. But yet all of this is happening in while we are in the mind of God, safely in the mind of God. So the only way to come up with kind of a logical explanation is like a child sleeping in their bed, having a nightmare. The nightmare feels really real. That tiger is chasing you. You're about to get eaten by the tiger. It's scary. You may even be screaming. Your mom and dad may even hear you scream. It feels very real, but you're still in your bed. But the tiger's about to eat you, and you're screaming, and mommy hears you, but you're still in your bed safely. That's paradox. We're in the mind of God, and we are in this world where we have co-created a nightmare. Right now, specifically in the US, the reason I was experiencing everything that I am going through, this morning as I was sitting and receiving the guidance for what was it that we were going to do today. I thought we were just going to continue on that lesson 186, salvation of the world depends on me. And of course, I got my guidance, and the guidance basically said, nope, that's enough of that one. If they didn't get that by now, we don't need to spend any more time on that. What we need to focus on now is lesson 50. I am sustained by the love of God. And the reason the focus is on that is because the world is in the midst right now, and I'll keep it to the US because this is what's happening in the United States of America where I live. And we're all of you who are here live are here. We talked about this in the academy last night, in or might have been the night before, I can't remember, probably Monday night, that the US government right now is experiencing a government shutdown where the funding has not been approved for a lot of the things that help run the government, whether it be traffic controllers, whether it be I can't even think of all the different departments that are pretty much everything interesting, everything at the lower level. It seems like those at the very top, maybe their salaries are not affected. Actually, I don't know, but I read something that maybe it didn't affect them. I don't know why. Maybe because they're the ones who make the laws or do the voting. We can't affect them even though they're not voting. Interesting. Well, some are voting. It's just that they don't get enough votes. But what is happening right now is the quintessential opportunity for humanity to see how we have given our power away. So while we are safely in the mind of God, sleeping in our nice, comfy little bed, we have been for thousands of years, what appears to be thousands of years, against paradox. It appears like thousands of years, but yet time does not exist. You got to weave those things together. You got to stretch your mind enough to understand that these things are operating at the same time. They are true and false at the same time. And the only reason they can be true and false is it depends on what side you're on. It depends on, are you listening to the ego? Let me turn that off. Are you listening to the ego? Well, everything God says is going to be false. Are you listening to God? Then everything the ego says will be false. So you will know the truth depending on which voice you're listening to. And here's the thing. Only the truth of God will set us free. So the work that we have to do is to find out what is the truth of God. And to get to the truth of God, you're going to have to sift through the lies of the ego. You're going to have to sift through the wicked witch in Hansel and Gretel, the wicked witch that lures them in. They're scared. They're in the woods. It's dark. It's cold, and they see a light, and they think, "Oh, that light is going to help me." But yet, that light, of course, if it's a light of God, it does. But this light lures them in. So then you can see the ego operating with a lot of the same things that God does. This is why you really have to understand what God is. And it is not what we've been taught. So they go into the light, they go into this nice little cave, and they see this sweet little old woman. And they think it's grandma. And yet she's a wicked witch who's just luring them in and throws them into, a cage or something until she has time to get her soup fixings going so she can boil them and have them for supper. But yet they went to the light. It was dark in the woods and they went to the light. There are so many deceptions that the ego provides us that we have to become very discerning. Right now, as we're experiencing this government shutdown, there are a lot of people who are experiencing a lot of discomfort, especially my understanding is that November 1st, there's no more money. A lot of the payments are going to stop. Some payments have stopped, but a lot of them are going to stop come November 1st. What do you think that does to millions of Americans who have no money to, maybe they don't have their food stamps to buy groceries, and they don't have their paychecks for the jobs that they actually work at to pay for their mortgage? When we look at what has taken place over thousands of years, specifically in this country over 250 years, you can see that we have not been very loving to each other. Laws and regulations have been created that continue to separate us into haves and have-nots, the 1%, the 99%. The ones with that appear to have privileges and those that appear to not have privileges. The ego would like for us to see that those things are true. God says, no, we're all equal. So if we're playing the roles of the haves and the have-nots, it's because we chose to play those roles. So this is where you have to train your mind, because if you look at this, at what's happening, and what's about to happen to many people when they don't get this assistance or they don't get their paychecks. And again, you can't look at this as just people who are getting a handout. It's not just that. It's people who actually have been working without a paycheck, but they have been, maybe they didn't have the savings, maybe they barely could afford their rent, and they've got a job, but it's not sustainable, the income that they have to the expenses that they have. When we move down this path, this is one of the fascinating things that I have encountered. I thought when I got spiritual, I was just going to talk about, halos and angel wings and love and light and just all beautiful things and miracles, and that's all I was going to do. And it was going to be such a fun. I could bury my head in the sand. I never had to pay attention to anything else that's happening in the world. That's not been my path. God said, okay, girl, you are going to talk about the least sexy thing in the world. You're going to talk about the eagle. And I'm like, seriously? I thought I was a good girl. I thought I did everything I was supposed to do. Didn't I have lots of amazing lifetimes to prove myself so that in this lifetime I could wake up and teach A Course in Miracles and teach that we are the light of the world? And it was like, nope, somebody else gets that job. The one that you signed up for is to help people see the most difficult thing that they will ever have to see, that we are the creators of our reality. That's all well and good when you have all the wonderful things. When you live in the ashram or you live in and you have the retreat center and you're planning all the getaways and the ayahuasca trips and everybody comes and it's all trippy and wonderful. Somebody else gets that job. You're going to teach them that they create their reality when they don't like what's in front of them. And I was like, geez, God, what did I do to deserve this? It was like, oh my goodness, what sin am I atoning for here? But the more that I look at it, the more I realize that's the only way out of this world is by understanding the way the ego works. Because while we're going on ayahuasca trips and getting all high and happy and mushrooms and reading all the beautiful books and maybe dressing all in white or purple and sitting on a mat and oming all day long, sure, that's wonderful. But how much of that is actually done because you really know who you are versus you're searching for who you are? That in and of itself can also be a very lonely, scary journey. But it's pretty, it's fun, it's trippy. But when you begin to understand the truth of who you are, that you can only be sustained by the love of God is because you're no longer listening to the ego, that's real freedom. Searching for God, that's not freedom. Of course, paradox is you are free. You're free to search if you want to, and you're searching for what you think you're going to find, but you're searching with what is already the truth of who you are that doesn't need to be found, just needs to be recognized that you are. So you're walking around with a flashlight trying to find the source of light, and it's like, oh, there it is, right there in your hand. I am sustained by the love of God is a lesson that can only be felt by somebody who really has been to hell and back and recognizes the truth of who they are because they have done the work to undo the ego. Meaning they have looked at all of the obstacles that we have created to make ourselves believe that we are separate from God, that nightmare is real and somehow that's where we are, that we're in the woods somewhere being chased instead of comfy in our bed, held by the love of God. So being able to move through what is happening means that we have to look at everybody as a powerful creator, everybody is exactly where they are based on the level of consciousness that they're at. We can look at this chart all day long and understand we're all in the mind of God. That whole cone is inside the mind of God, but we are experiencing different levels of it. How it shows up in a practical way. We have our wonderful brother. What the heck was that? Not sure. We have our wonderful brother, the I think psychologist Maslow, who gave us this beautiful hierarchy of needs. So when you look at the hierarchy of needs, which I put together a while back, and you look at basically that spiral here in terms of the levels of consciousness that we operate from, when you begin to see that while we're operating in survival at the very bottom and our basic needs are not met, you can't buy the food, you can't pay the rent, you don't have a place to stay. And the reason I was so touched earlier is because the daughter um of my former husband, Ken, you guys have heard me say, if you watched my Course in Miracles lessons, you've heard me talk about Ken because so much growth happened for me through that relationship. That relationship came to put a mirror in front of me and help me see so many obstacles that were part of my delusion. And one of the biggest ones was my spiritualized ego. And I will always be grateful to that relationship for showing me that. But that relationship also brought with it a couple of daughters that were my stepdaughters, and one in particular that has stayed in touch with me. And she is spiraling. She is spiraling. She is right now finding herself in a homeless situation, in abusive relationship, in what was appears to be just she was taken advantage of sexually, and she is just in a really tough spot. So I've been spending hours upon hours the last couple of weeks trying to secure place for her to be. I mean, if I lived there, she'd be right with me. But I'm not there. I'm in Colorado, she's in Georgia. So trying to assist in the best way that I can hear. She is down here, totally, completely at the mercy of the world, being taken advantage of by people, feeling like she has nobody cares about her, that I'm her only lifeline, even her own mother who lives in the area, her own father who live in the area, they don't want to help her. They don't want nothing to do with her. And granted, they have their reasons. She's not an easy person to deal with. But when you recognize that we're all brothers and sisters in Christ, you just can't decide, well, I can't handle your attitude. You literally, if you are called to be of service, and this is not a judgment on them, if they're not being called to be of service and they're doing exactly what they should do, these are lessons that she has to learn. And for me, I can't do that. I cannot walk away because when I sit in prayer, it's mine to be of service. So she's feeling down here. Guess where a bunch of other people, as they lose their vouchers, they lose their paychecks, they're down here. What this does to humanity is when you look at that pyramid, the hierarchy of needs, the bulk of humanity is operating pretty much on survival. Why do we have so much homelessness? Why do we have so much hunger? Why do we have so many people at the poverty level? Because humanity has been setting up rules that support some but not the rest. This is because we don't understand that we're brothers and sisters in Christ. We do not fully understand the implications that we are one because we're operating as if we're separate and different. As I was sitting, okay, what are we going to talk about today? And lesson 50 came very clearly. Also, what came, but we're not going to spend time on that. But inside of chapter 23, in section number 2 is, well, chapter 23, the title of it is The War Against Yourself. We have been in a war against ourselves. We have been in a total war, listening to the ego and taking ourselves like Hansel and Gretel out into the woods, forget who we are, follow this fake light that we thought was going to take care of us. And in this world, you could call that power, searching for power and money outside of myself, and then I'll be better. So we go out and we're lured by the promise of something out there taking care of me. So we buy into that. We create all of these idols, we give power away, and then we say, you take care of me. And then when those powers, like a government, says, well, we don't have the money to take care of you, then what happens? All these people get cut off. That what does that do to society? So when you look at the second section there, the laws of chaos, and at some point maybe we'll break that down, but the laws of chaos are very clear into what the ego does into our mind to whip us up into this level of chaos that has us go into beliefs that we are not good enough, that some are better, some are lesser, that some have power, some have no power. And when humanity is raised to believe that they are less than, that they have to be dependent on the government, dependent on a spouse, dependent on the teacher, dependent on the preacher, dependent on the government. When your mind is trained into believing that you are dependent, and before I tell you what I'm about to tell you next, let me just say, go back to paradox. Our minds are being trained into that we are dependent because we chose to have that experience. So, are you really dependent, or are you having an experience of being dependent because you wanted to have that experience? This is again where so much of the mind training needs to happen to unravel the insanity that we have accepted as normal. Hello, Miss Julia. It's been a while since I've seen you. But the laws of chaos is a really important section because it breaks down into very simple terms how the ego has created so many things. Um, I'm just going to read the first one. This is in paragraph number 2. The first chaotic law is that the truth is different for everyone. Right there, you can see how this world has become chaotic. How people who think it's true, I don't have any money. It's true, I have no power. It's true, I'm this color and I deserve it. It's true, I'm this color and I deserve that. It's true that I'm born into this family and it should be this way. It's true that my parents had it and yours didn't, so I have it and you don't. We have been taught about different truths for everybody. And these are all small t truths. When we align with God's truth, it's the same truth for everybody because there is only one truth. And that truth is we were all created equal. God makes no exceptions. What it creates totally, completely, exactly the same way. That's why in truth, God has one child, one creation. It creates a replica of itself. And that self then begins to divide and subdivide, and that creates what we have become comfortable thinking of ourselves as humanity. 8 billion people on the planet, not to count all the ones that were before, the ones after, trillions of beings that appear to be separate humans. When we truly understand that we have never left the mind of God, we've never left our cozy bed, then how do we deal with the nightmare? How do we deal with people who are in the nightmare, who are screaming, who are in fear? This is where, when we look at the characteristics of a teacher of God, if you have learned to trust and you have gotten your mind trained so that you know you are in the mind of God, you know you are safe there. You have found your peace. You have found the truth with a capital T. Now, what do we do? Well, salvation of the world depends on me. It is for us to be in service to our brothers and sisters. It is not for us to go rescue them because none of them need rescuing. Again, remember paradox, they're all safe. But it is for us to recognize the power that they have. Every conversation that I have with I can't call her my former stepdaughter. She'll always be like a daughter to me. I mean, I just love her that way, and it will always be that way. To recognize, yes, you're having some discomfort, but have you sat in prayer? Have you asked God for guidance? The light of God is in you. And somebody who's in survival, they don't want to hear that. But yet I cannot not share the truth that I know is true. It's the only thing that's going to help her, the only thing that is going to guide her while she's in survival mode. So it's a very interesting thing to be experiencing one-on-one right now, while I know that millions are about to hit that same experience here in a couple of days. Really fascinating. I'm like, God, why is this happening? Did we have this contract, she and I, so that I can prepare myself for the contract that I have with the rest of humanity that is, or Americans that are about to hit that level of discomfort? Well, when we set up through the laws of chaos, all of these different hierarchies, and we are not trained from the get-go to remember the truth of who we are going to be susceptible to all kinds of things that appear like nice, shiny things. Oh, they're going to provide us our food. Oh, yeah, yeah. We'll just, you know, I don't even have to work. I don't have to try hard because somebody else is going to give it to me. The mind that begins to create dependency. I'm not good enough. I can't do it by myself. Somebody else has to take care of me. That mind begins to create a sense of entitlement, a sense of dependency, a sense of victimization. I'll never be smart enough to do anything, so I got to depend on somebody else. Or the ones who are working their jobs and doing something that let's call it productive for humanity, but they've not been taught finances. I don't know about you, but I never learned that in high school. That just wasn't part of the curriculum. Even wasn't, unless you study finance, you didn't really learn anything about money. But yet the world runs on money. So how do we have so many people who don't understand finances? Well, that's a whole rabbit hole we're not going to get into. But the world has been totally incomplete. The 3D world, the planet Earth that we are here living in, the world that the ego has created, is filled with chaos that is bubbling to the surface because it is time for the big wake-up call, the opportunity for the masses that are going to wake up to have their opportunity to wake up. And the course is really simple. It tells us, I don't know, I'm going to get my hands on that one really fast. Um, Actually, I did here. Every situation properly perceived becomes an opportunity to heal. Discomfort is aroused only to bring the need for correction into awareness. I think we just read that in one of our classes the other night. We need discomfort to arouse in us a desire to become self-aware. That's why I say every irritation is an invitation to see your ego's motivation. If you don't see your ego's motivation, you cannot know that you are already safe in the mind of God. First, we have to see how the ego convinced us that we are having this experience before we can really claim that we chose to have, to separate ourselves from God. Again, you can't separate. So I'm always talking. It's double speak. You have to see, you have to pay attention to where am I coming from. So when I say we're separating, it's because I'm saying, yeah, we're having this experience, but we never really separated. So your mind has to be agile enough to follow and know what is true and what is not true in the context of what is going to be most helpful to the people who have no idea of what's going on. When you're here, what you need here is not the same as what you need here. If you've got all your needs met so many things are already working for you, what you don't need anything. You're open-minded to anything. When you're here and in survival, you can't be talking spirituality when you're trying to find a place to spend the night. So let's get into lesson 50 so that you can see why it's so important that you understand the power of integrating this lesson into every fiber of your being. Lesson 50 says, I am sustained by the love of God. Paragraph 1. Here is the answer to every problem that will confront you today and tomorrow and throughout time. If you do not cultivate a relationship with God, and I'll tell you, there's really only one way, and that is to accept God as God is described to us in A Course in Miracles, meaning accept what Jesus is telling us, our brother who has been there, done that, and he's telling us, follow me, follow me. I've figured this out. I'm laying it all out for you so it's easier. I have figured this out because Jesus helped me figure it out. So I'm attempting to help those who follow my teachings to how to figure it out. God is love. Again, keep it super simple. God is love. When you extend love, you will feel God in you. There is just no other way to experience that. Another way to describe love, a love that loves all. So it has no favorites, it has no hierarchies, it doesn't have a truth for this or a truth for that, but it just loves everything equally. Then what you experience is peace. Peace is there because there's nothing that you don't love. There's nothing that you are at odds with. So when you love everything because love is what you are, peace is what you experience. It's a natural. It's the feeling that you reside inside of because there's you're just sending beams of love. And the other way that that is experienced is through joy. This is why love, peace, and joy are the highest of frequencies, way up there at the very top of that chart. You feel it at the very top when you secure all of these things, you're at the very top where you feel joy. Joy means you're enjoying that you're the creator of your reality and you're here to experience whatever is before you. But this also comes with a wisdom that recognizes that I chose to have an experience of separation. I went down the spiral. I came in as a baby with nothing. And then I worked really hard to work up the ladder. And I couldn't get very far on my own. I couldn't do a whole lot. Or maybe I went up and then I fell down. It's all okay when you have the understanding that you chose to have this experience. That activates a responsibility that says, okay, if I chose it now, no, I don't have to be in a battle with anybody else. I can't say that to my stepdaughter right now. She really thinks the world is out to get her. Having a conversation with her is like having a conversation with a frightened little animal that's in a cage. Everything is out to get her, even though there are resources that I'm attempting to get to her through all the different people that I'm connecting with to be able to help her. And today is her last day in this temporary hotel that one group put her in, and then there's nothing else after that. There's no other places other than going to a homeless shelter. She's been there, but it's not been a good experience. Not real easy for a young girl in a place that is primarily filled with a lot of men. And it's a really challenging situation, but I know she can handle it because the love of God is going to sustain her if this is the path that she needs to go through to find that love of God. So whatever path is necessary, we cannot judge it. Everybody has their very own path. So when you look at this, there's only one answer to every problem, and that is to connect with God. Today, yesterday, tomorrow, always and forever. Sentence two says, in this world, you believe you are sustained by everything by God. The food stamps sustain me, the job sustains me, the spouse sustains me, the military protects me, something outside of us. Your faith is placed in the most trivial and insane symbols: pills, money, protective clothing, influence, prestige, being liked, knowing the right people, and an endless list of forms of nothingness that you endow with magical powers. Whew, I did that. That was my life. The prestige, the influence, the clothing. Ooh, I had a lot of beautiful clothes. The the pills, the money, the whatever, protective clothing. Oh, we just think something out there is going to take care of me. An endless list of forms of nothingness. And I'll tell you, there is nothing wrong with having any of that. There is nowhere in the Course that tells us not to have that. But the Course tells us that if we become dependent on that, if we need that to be happy, to be peaceful, to experience love, to experience joy, if we need to have that, then we're not sustained by the love of God, because the love of God comes from knowing you don't need anything on the outside, that everything is totally provided from the inside. And I know people say, but Lina, how is the love of God going to give me food? Well, when you feel the love of God and you're listening to it and you're guided and you don't have food, you will be guided to where to go. You will hear it. You will know it. Somebody will go by and say, oh, I have this extra food. Do you want it? Because there is a level of trust, foundational in becoming a teacher of God. There's a level of trust that you rely on because you are being faithful to that you are the creator of your reality. And if your mind is set into the experience of all that I need is taken care of because I'm sustained by the love of God, you would experience a very different reality. But because the mind has been trained in external is where we go to first to get what we need, well, guess what? If everything has, based on the laws of chaos, it has different truths. There are those who are going to believe, I deserve it, you don't. I take care of me first, not you. And then what does that create? Uh, Problems, attacks, hurt, fights, all kinds of things. So when we look at that particular statement or that sentence, that or not sentence, paragraph, there's only one answer. Do you really, really 100% believe that you are sustained by the love of God? This is where honesty kicks in. Look at where are you? Where are you? Do you believe a little bit? Well, you need to believe a little bit to move up here. Then you believe a little bit more. Then you believe a little bit more. You believe a little bit more. The more you're sustained by the love of God, the more you become fully sustained by the love of God. Then, like Jesus, like so many others, you can walk around on this world and there is no fear, zero fear. But that comes because you have decided to extend nothing but love. When you can see everybody and you can recognize the stories that they're in, and you can see that they're, oh, okay, this person's down here, this person's here. Okay, I can see where they are. I can see because it's all mind training. When you understand the way the mind works, you can see, are they at 90% training? Are they at 80% training? They're 60% training. You can tell because you've been there. You have walked that spiral staircase. You know every step on that staircase, so you can see where somebody is. And the bulk of humanity is still believing that their happiness, their peace, their love, their joy comes from the outside. So they're not sustained by the love of God. They're sustained by the blocks to the love of God. And those blocks, well, we just read the long list. Paragraph 2 says, all these things are your replacements for the love of God. I grew up replacing the love of God. I have total, complete empathy for anybody who that is what they've experienced. From the get-go, I was told that my happiness, my safety, my well-being, being a good girl, bad girl was all determined by something external. I got trained like everybody else. That's what happens on this planet. So we have used all kinds of things for replacements for the love of God. All these things are cherished to ensure a body identification. They are songs of praise to the ego. Do not put your faith in the worthless. It will not sustain you. So as we see this world that is experiencing, and by design, by the way, the systems are crumbling because they're falling under the weight of their own greed. And they can only have experienced that greed because we participated in that. This is one of the important things that the Course is so clear about. We have to take responsibility for what we helped to create. If we're in survival down here, we can't take responsibility. It's very difficult. You just need to find shelter and some food, and then we can move into the next level. to begin to do the work that is necessary to feel all of those lower emotions and begin the process of healing. Most people cannot do their healing until they find a level of safety. This is why some of you who have been in 12-step programs realize that until you got into a safe house and there was some safety, you really couldn't start doing that healing. Because while we are down and out, it's survival mode. It's just impossible. So humanity is going to have to go through a very big um, recognition that so much of the suffering that is taking place is because we have been deluded into doing things separately and not really caring for one another. We were not looking at what the Course is teaching us, that the salvation of the world depends on us. And that's not just figuratively, it's also literally. We've got to take responsibility for the fact that we are powerful creators. And if we came together and decided, we things need to change, things need to be more open. And those things are happening, by the way. There are lots of people that they incarnated to change the systems and to bring transparency, to put things in a way that the cheating, the lying, the corruption is going to go away. For that to become something that we see more prevalently, well, it's a couple of years away, maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe 20 years away. In the meantime, the old is going to break down, and a lot of people who have relied on that are going to find themselves in a tough spot. And it's for us. It's for us to recognize that if we're sustained by the love of God, generosity, another characteristic of a teacher of God, is one of our characteristics. We can be generous with our time, with our love, with our money, with our prayers. We can be so generous with just sitting and recognizing, you know what? I was part of this old 3D world, but these things that are happening, I don't want to see that anymore. And then sit and ask God, what would show me what a world where we all treat each other lovingly. What does that look like? Because most of us don't have that as an option in our consciousness because we've been so ingrained in the other way. So creativity requires that we go to God and say, God, I don't know what 5D looks like. Can you please show it to me? I don't know what a world where there is no hunger looks like. Can you please show that to me? And then become open-minded and say, I trust that you're going to show me the way. Because if you gave me the job that the salvation of the world depends on me, I know you're going to give me the means. Because that is one thing that I became really clear about. When I had my conversation with God and say, why do I get to teach this about the ego? No, nobody wants to hear about the ego. That's not going to make me famous talking about the ego. It's the last thing anybody wants to hear. Then what I realized is that if this was the path that I was supposed to go down, then that I needed to rely on God to make the way easy for me. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, so God is like my concierge service. All right, God, here, give me this. I need to have whatever it is that I need to be able to do whatever it is that you want me to do. And I sit in total, complete expectation. Why? Because I'm entitled to receive whatever it is that I need to receive. If I am sustained by the love of God and I'm doing my work and I am assisting and I'm in service to my brothers and sisters from a purely a space of integrity that I don't need to get anything from anybody because my sustenance comes from God, then I am here to give. And absolutely expecting God to make everything happen. And sure enough, I started asking for people to give me some resources in Atlanta, and they started coming in. And I got names that I could contact, and people that, some don't have space at wherever, whatever facility they're running, but somebody's giving me another name's giving me another name. And from here, from Colorado, I'm doing as much as if I was almost there. Anything out there in the world, anything of separation, anything of lack, anything of limitation is not going to sustain us. We're seeing it very clearly in the world. A world that has relied on the ego, that has relied on externals, is falling apart for a reason. It's temporary. It cannot last very long. when you have haves and have-nots, when you have people who think that they're entitled to more than others, that system is crumbling. Paragraph 3 says, only the love of God will protect you in all circumstances. It will lift you out of every trial and raise you high above all the perceived dangers of this world into a climate of perfect peace and safety. That, for that to be experienced externally, you must embody it internally. Until you know that you are safe in the mind of God, until you really trust that the love of God is there for you no matter what, until you're clear that you're not your body, until you have made peace that what you are is eternal and is formless, until you love that you as much as you love your looks or your body or your whatever, the physical you, until that love for that part of you that cannot be seen, that's never going to get an award, that's never going to get, to put clothes on because it's nothing. Until we move into that humbleness that what we are is absolutely nothingness, then when we are comfortable with being nothing, you know what happens? Paradoxes. In the acknowledgement of our nothingness, we experience our everythingness. The all that isness is experienced when you know that there is nothing, that you're not that. And that comes with the dissolving of this separate identity that keeps us playing these chaotic games that the ego loves to play. I remember my little kids, my little boys, all the little GI Joes and having all these little fights and shooting up and it was like, oh my gosh, that's what this world has become. We've all become these little GI Joes battling each other. And that game is coming to an end. And it's coming to an end because a lot of us went off that train. I mean, it's like we're done with that game. I know I'm mixing so many metaphors. So the game, the train, blah, 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 we're all getting off. Many of us are getting off. Those who don't want to get off, they don't have to. Why? Because they're safe in the mind of God and if they want to be dreaming that they're GI Joes battling each other, they can. But the majority of humanity is being supported right now with so much energy, so much is coming in to push everything that is unlike love to the surface so we can look at it and go, yep, I did this. I believed in this. I agreed with this. I was selfish. I was greedy. I was a liar. I was a cheat. Yep, I've done that. I don't want to do that anymore. Because when we do that, then how can we judge anybody else for doing that? They're doing the best that they could with what they had. I did the best that I could with what I had. Then I had something else. I had an experience that helped me realize that there's so much more, but I cannot have all that is until I am comfortable with nothing. Because it's in that humble disillusion of the self-importance that the ego gives itself that we strip ourselves of everything that is unlike God. It's a fake, it's a mask, it's a costume, it's pretend. And when you're tired of all of that, then you're left there naked. And in that, God, I have nothing to give you. You're open and ready to receive all that God has to give us. It's such a beautiful process, but it's such a paradox, such an incredible paradox. Let me continue reading here. But that first sentence is so beautiful. Paragraph 3. Only the love of God will protect you in all circumstances. It will lift you out of every trial and raise you high above all the perceived dangers of this world into a climate of perfect peace and safety. It will transport you into a state of mind that nothing can threaten, nothing can disturb, and where nothing can intrude upon the eternal calm of the Son of God. Doesn't that sound just absolutely amazing? If that's not paradise, I don't know what is. a place where nothing can disturb us. But notice how it says it will transport you into a state of mind. It doesn't say it's going to transport you to the seventh planet, 45 degrees off of Mercury. It doesn't say that. Or the spaceship or whatever. It transports you to a state of mind. Your mind is the only thing that is going to ever free you from what the ego has created for us. A bunch of invisible bars, all nothing but beliefs. The state of mind that is going to free us is when we recognize how magnificent we are. When we can come like a little child, humble and totally, completely. All right, God, I play the game my way and my gosh, it's G.I. Joes, it's battles all the time. I now want to play. I want to play with the light that I am. We got to get humble and start asking, become open-minded. How do I do that? I didn't know that game. I didn't know the game of true generosity because I always operated from lack. I'm generous with what's left over, but not with this. I gotta save this for me. And I'm seeing that showing up with my stepdaughter. Oh, I cannot afford to pay for this unless I sell maybe I have to sell some of my investments, or maybe I'm going to put off some of my dental work. Okay, I can't help you with that because I got to do this. And I'm going, Lina, in this now moment, you do what needs to be done. If I'm following my heart, and listen, my heart is sometimes very clear. I sit in prayer and it's like, no, no, it's not for me to do. She will figure it out. So it's walking that fine line where she's not a victim of anything. She may think she is, but not to me. We just studied this in one of our classes. This is what charity is. This is what true empathy is. Nobody is broken in this world. But how do you tell somebody who thinks that they're broken that they're not broken? Those things don't compute to a mind that is in terror. So more than ever, I am sitting asking, okay, Holy Spirit, what would you have me say? What would you have me say? I'm in a classroom right now, and it's so amazing, absolutely amazing. But that state of mind that I rest in pretty much most of the time, I don't feel threatened. I don't feel disturbed. I don't feel that things intrude into the calm of this child of God. That's my normal because I have taken the time to make a priority training my mind, not looking for more things out in the world, not trying to impress anybody else out in the world, which is probably why God brought me here to Colorado so that I would be so far removed from those things. I guess God knew me pretty well. It's like, this girl, she's going to want to be social. Well, we'll put her where she can't. Not that I can't, but it's just not part of my reality here when I'm focused so much on my academy and my grandkids. Those are my two priorities, really. Paragraph 4. Put not your faith in illusions. They will fail you. Look at the world. They're all failing. It's all crumbling. Put all your faith in the love of God within you, eternal, changeless, and forever unfailing. This is the answer to whatever confronts you today. Through the love of God within you, you can resolve all seeming difficulties without effort and in sure confidence. Tell yourself this often today. It is a declaration of release. I mean, there is probably no more powerful sentence in the Course than this. It is a declaration of release from the belief in idols. It is your acknowledgement of the truth about yourself. The love of God is what sustains me. Therefore, the love of God is what I am. In any situation, how can you bring love to it? And it's really simple. We all know what love is: kindness, compassion, generosity. Go to the characteristics of a teacher of God. If you're embodying those characteristics, love is flowing from you. And it tells us inside of the manual for teachers, that you notice when you see the list of characteristics, they don't list love, peace, joy. Those don't need to be characteristics. That is the outcome. That is the result of one who lives in trust and generosity and faithfulness and open-mindedness and tolerance. So instead of judging, my ego would have loved to have judged my stepdaughter. It's like, what can I judge? She's a powerful creator that has created this experience. Tolerance says, I don't know the big picture. I don't know why she did this. Maybe she did all this just to teach me a lesson. What if her purpose was to do all of this and go through all that she's gone through so that I can look in the mirror and go, can I still love her? Is the love of God what is flowing through me? Or is my ego still trying to get in there? Is the protective me trying to get in there? Is the controlling me still trying to get in there? And I can report that's not been most of what's happened. And it's left me so humble. It doesn't mean that every now and then there isn't that thought. I was talking to my daughter, and my daughter's like, oh my gosh, she's calling you again. And of course, she goes into wanting to protect me. I'm like, I'm okay. I can handle this. Don't worry. It's a beautiful thing when God directs us because we have decided that I am worthy to experience the love of God moving through me to another brother or sister. There's just nothing more beautiful than that. I don't have to solve any problems. I just have to extend the love of God. I feel such peace no matter what happens. It it's not I don't have to control anything. But the peace, the love, the joy in whatever it is that I'm doing feels so amazing. I've never experienced such a clear knowing of what true service is all about. It's like, is this what Mother Teresa felt all the time? Am I going to become a saint now? It's like, whoa, I wanted a halo before. Maybe I'm getting it now. It's kind of funny to think about those things. Let's do the last paragraph. Let me get the tears out of my eyes so I can see clearly. Paragraph number 5. And this is a lesson, so it's just telling us how to do this lesson. So for 10 minutes twice today, morning and evening, let the idea for today sink deep into your consciousness. If you want to experience the love of God, you've got to take the time to sit and acknowledge who you are as God created you. You've got to want to sit and feel this. Because when you welcome it in, you're saying yes to what you already are. Paradox again. We've been looking for love in all the wrong places. Well, how do you experience the love of God? You got to accept that you've been that all the time. It's like tag, you're it. You've always been it. Always been it. Repeat it, think about it, let related thoughts come to help you recognize its truth and allow peace to flow over you like a blanket of protection and surety. Isn't that a beautiful love letter? Think, let your mind be filled with all of the thoughts of all the amazing things that you have done, all of the beautiful moments that you have experienced in your life. Just call them all in. Say, Holy Spirit, activate all the goodness of my life. Bring it all to me. I want to remember that. So that the thoughts of lack and limitation and the bills and blah, 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 and the illness, so that all those thoughts can just, put them on pause. Like the meditation we did in the academy yesterday, just put them on pause. Give it a break and let yourself be bathed by the truth of who you are. All of us have these amazing qualities. We have used them always in our lives. Probably a lot of them, we use them for, I'll give to get. But now we're being invited to give without that the getting comes from within, comes from the giving, comes from the multiplication of that which is so beautiful within us. This is where we have to be mindful because sentence 3 tells us, let no idle and foolish thoughts enter to disturb the holy mind of the Son of God. That's our job. Be the police person. Stop. Police traffic. No, you're not allowed to come in here and tell me that I'm not good enough. Oh, no. To that thought, you're not allowed to come in here and tell me that I'm a sinner. Another thought, nope, I'm not listening to that thought. Don't allow those foolish thoughts to enter and disturb your holy mind. Sentence 4, such is the kingdom of heaven. Such is the resting place where your Father has placed you forever. Even though we're in the mind of God, even though we're already holy, we're perfect, magnificent, we have to take action. First, the actions are let me get myself the things that I believe I need so that I can put my mind at ease. Then you take care of that. This is why Maslow's hierarchy of needs is brilliant. Then you go to the next place. Your needs are met. Now, what can I do to make myself more comfortable? Needs are met. Now I'm in comfort. You're in a level of comfort where, you've got whatever it is that you feel that you need. Now, the mind can begin to relax. Well, when the mind begins to relax, then from that place, you can begin to open up. You begin to realize, oh, I deserve more. This is why I've created a circle. You guys have seen the circle of the soul's journey. Nobody can move into curiosity if we're in control. If you're trying to control circumstances, control your food, control what you get, control whatever it is that's going on, you can't really be curious because in control, there's no room for curiosity. Curiosity is, okay, my arms are open, my hands are open. I'm ready to receive something new. You can't be studying about how to make things better when you are barely in survival. We have a lot of brothers and sisters that are hitting that point because we need something to basically break the dam. We need something to break the dam from control. When people lose control in the millions and they can't control what little they thought that they could control, and all of a sudden they're floundering, it's going to be an opportunity to really see what the fuck have we done as a humanity? How can we have allowed these things to happen? Not to blame ourselves, but to recognize we are powerful creators. We are powerful creators of our reality. We don't need to go drag anybody over here. But when this dam breaks and the safety net is gone, are we prepared on this side because we're sustained by the love of God to whoever Holy Spirit brings to us, whoever we have contracts with, soul contracts, that we're prepared to be of service to them? Well, we can if we want to. That's the beautiful thing. All of this is voluntary. Incarnating, voluntary. Helping your brothers and sisters, voluntary. Hurting your brothers and sisters, voluntary. Nobody is forced to do anything here. Why? Because we're nothing. Isn't that amazing? And yet the nothing that we are has become all of this that appears to be everything. The ego says, well, I don't want to mess with that over there, but it's all one. It's all us. How you treat another is a reflection of how you've treated yourself. We have to recognize that we cannot love our neighbors until we have learned to love ourselves. And our neighbors is no different than everybody. There are brothers and sisters in Christ who have entered into this dream, taken off into the woods like Hansel and Gretel, but everybody left breadcrumbs. That's the beautiful thing. That's why we don't have to worry about anybody. It's an amazing journey that we're on. It is just incredible how brilliantly creative Source is. It's like, God, it doesn't cease me to be amazed by your creativity. That's why I stopped trying to think that I'm creative. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be open-minded, bring in new creative. I don't want to keep doing the same old creative shit that I've done before. I like new creativity. Ah, it's amazing, absolutely amazing that I get to share this with you, maybe whoever watches this video, that there are people who actually want to study the Course in Miracles. Thank you, Susie. I receive your love. That people want to learn the Course in Miracles so that we can find the love of God that is going to sustain us and allows us to become the pillars of light. We are the light of the world. And when you light up yourself, all that people can see is your peaceful, joyful, caring, compassionate, kind presence. That's how you know you're letting love have its way with you. It really is that simple. Now, to get to that place, I know it takes a lot of work. That's why we're here for each other to help each other through all this work. We don't have to work alone. Like all the little dwarfs and, you know, what was her name? Snow White's house and all the, we'll whistle while we work. I love you all. Does anybody want to share anything you might have gotten from this? Any inspiration, anything at all? Go ahead and share now. If not, I receive just your presence, your love. It's just beautiful to have everybody here. All right. See you guys next time for the next episode of Ascension with A Course in Miracles. Today was 220, lesson 50. I am sustained by the love of God. I love you all.
Thank you, Laina.
Of
Love
course, sweetheart. Absolutely. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Laina.
Bye, honey.